and I'd like to thank you for your time. I'm here to talk to you about one of the greatest issues facing the world today, the terrible crisis in Kenya. For those of you who are not aware of this world issue, the terrors of Kenya revolve around the results of a recent presidential election. Incumbent President Mwai Kibaki's re-election has triggered mass rioting and ethnic slaughter across the country. The riots began on December 27, 2007, after Kibaki was named the winner by a small margin of votes. Presidential candidate Raila Odinga and Kibaki have both accused the other of rigging the votes. Since the start of the riots, more than 650 people have been killed, and over 250,000 people have fled their homes. The violence between the tribes of the two presidential candidates have affected the entire country in one way or another. The violence in Kenya is everywhere. Some mobs have hacked people to death and burned homes, crops, and businesses. There have also been revenge-based crimes of the same nature on the mobs. In one instance, parishioners were burnt alive while inside a church. The police have gone to the extent of killing demonstrators. It's that bad. The Red Cross in Kenya planned strategies to aid victims of the election's outcome. But even they cannot anticipate the magnitude of this crisis. Also, rape and sexual charges have skyrocketed since the election. And even though the violence has eased, many people are afraid to return home. There are still many families sleeping at night in police stations and churches for security, and there are even more people sleeping out in the fields with frigid cold winter weather conditions. Shipments of food and necessities that should be delivered across the whole country are delayed due to the violence. And while there's always hope that the world organizations will just send Superman in to solve all the world's problems, Kenya is still suffering. And even though the United Nations have been appealed for $42 million to aid the displaced Kenyans and continue to report on new developments, they cannot do everything. In my opinion, the United Nations Security Council should form a new group that can deal with issues like this from a defense angle and a political angle. However, we must remember where we draw the line between a country's autonomy, their privacy, and their need for help. Maybe countries like Canada and the USA, who are so fortunate, are helping as much as physically possible. Perhaps the reason there are so many world issues today is because humans, by nature, are flawed and imperfect. I believe that this is the greatest issue facing the world today because it shows, through human error and a presidential election, chaos can break loose. I believe that this information should be publicly broadcast around the world with the hopes that some caring people will volunteer to make a difference. In conclusion, the violence in Kenya that has torn the entire country apart is the single greatest issue facing the world today. It has cost many lives, displaced millions of people, and placed a state of terror in the minds of Kenyans. I can only hope and pray that an answer will be found soon, and that the public will wake up and realize the bigger picture, that there is a world beyond our front porch, and that it's our duty to help. And I can only hope that the new frontier that U.S. President John F. Kennedy spoke of in his acceptance speech is somewhere on the horizon, within our view, but not quite our grasp. And it will take the hard work and care of every willing being on the planet to reach that new frontier, where we will find the unfulfilled hopes and dreams, the unsolved problems of peace and war, the unconquered pockets of ignorance and prejudice, and the unanswered questions of poverty and surplus. Thank you.